enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
Yeah. Oh, we are live.
We
That
are live.
introduction,
Yes.
that opening was brought to you by Nick. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great. I'm just kind of enjoying my last 2 days of summer before I have to start summer school.
Cool.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
back
the
with our
life of a
brunch show.
teacher. Pardon?
We're back with our weekly brunch show. We are here talking Conan this morning, starting off our summer of 1982. We're hitting movies, turning the big 4-0 this year.
Yeah.
So we decided to go with Conan, and we are here with Nick. We are here with Cody, and we are here with my lovely wife, Lindsay. I don't know if you can hear her. She's got a headache, so she's going to be off to the side. She will chime in, but
A
anyway.
fainter ghostly presence than normal. I
yeah,
apologize.
she's the floating voice off screen. That
One
you will
day
hear.
we'll have her completely there with in the podcast. One day.
One day, I need a bigger. I need a larger setup where I'm at. Actually, like I'm in the corner of my bedroom, so
Yeah.
there's a chair here, and then we set a chair off to the side. So once I get my camera, like a nice camera, we'll be at that point.
I will finally exist.
Yeah, she will finally exist in body form.
No longer the girlfriend from Canada.
Yeah, I swear she's here, guys. I swear.
She just goes to a different school. God.
Yeah, you wouldn't know her. But anyway, yeah, we're here. I've got my beverage, my OJ beverage.
I just finished eating breakfast, so we're gonna go see a house in about an hour and a half. So
cool. Well, that breakfast you named off sounded delicious.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, Conan. Let's talk about this. This totally just heavy metal, radical, as you put it earlier, testosterone-filled, bloody, just badass movie.
Yeah.
Nope.
Even the soundtrack makes you want to get up and run outside and like swing a sword around.
Well, you know who? I don't know the guy's name that did the score, but it's the same guy that did the score for RoboCop.
Basil
Papadopoulos.
That's his last name.
Polydorus.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. He's done several. You would recognize him when you heard him.
I know he did Starship Troopers as well. I'm not sure if he did the score for Total Recall or not, though.
Nope, that's Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith did the scores for Total Recall and Basic Instinct.
Oh.
And Basil did RoboCop, and you said Starship Troopers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and they have the same screenwriters from RoboCop too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that in and of itself is a whole can of worms to deal with, because it's obviously mocking Heinlein's books and Heinlein's worldview, and several other YouTubers have done lengthy videos about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, let's jump into it and talk about what a grand scale this movie is.
Well,
especially for 1982 standards.
For a fantasy epic. Like Nick, you mentioned this is like basically a big D&D movie.
Yeah.
Yep. It basically is.
Actually not just this movie, but really all the Conan movies, Conan the Destroyer and the Red Sonja spinoff they made, all of them play off like D&D campaigns, and that's like I just find that funny. I'm pretty sure that someone on the higher up production crew, probably the screenwriters, do play D&D.
I doubt John Milius and Oliver Stone are D&Ders.
Well, Oliver Stone might be a C&C, if you know what I mean.
Well, he did write the screenplay for Scarface.
Yeah.
Right.
And who knows what he was taking when he was doing all those photography shots in Vietnam.
Oh God. Oh, Oliver
Well-
Stone's Vietnam trilogy. That is definitely a different rant for another time. But yeah, there. It's like the fact that Oliver Stone made a fantasy epic the way it is, and knowing his movie Oeuvre, that's just that's just insane. But it was like I was saying on the Facebook pages, 1982 kind of kicked off this whole slew of sci-fi and fantasy movies. Like
Yeah.
not all of them were successful, but
you got things
so
like
many of them
Beastmaster.
have endured.
Right.
Yeah, do
Even
you?
Even the B movies that, like the B sword and sorcery movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
because
were
didn't
influenced by
Beastmaster come out this year too? Which is
Beastmaster came out that year. Also, The Last Unicorn came out that year,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and The Dark Crystal,
Oh
which
yeah.
may or may not be Jim Henson's magnum opus. I mean, that depends on your whole point of view. And
I'm gonna say it's his masterpiece.
Yeah, which by the way, we're that's going to be our segue into Halloween in September, like the end
Yeah.
of August. So
Yeah, even though we're gonna cover it again because we are gonna be doing Jim Henson and Frank Oz, because you mentioned it several times, I was like, screw it, we'll do the Dark Crystal, even though it's
Yeah.
not a summer movie, because it's such a. And it's interesting, even with this year, with these crop of films that came out, even the ones that weren't commercially successful, most of them have gone on to have huge cult followings.
Yeah, I mean, I actually sat down and watched Tron for the first time a few months ago, and it isn't good, but
I think it was
But-
cutting. I mean, it is cutting edge for
yes,
the time.
very
For
cutting edge.
1982, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not perfect, but I think it's more of the fact that they achieved what they did.
Yeah, this was
with it.
that period where Disney was really stretching out its creative legs.
Right.
We
Mhm.
saw a lot of weird stuff coming from Disney at that time.
Well, this is a weird transitional period for Disney right now because, Disney dies in 66, 67. So after
Mhm.
the Jungle Book, there's some weird movies that come out between Jungle Book and, I don't know, Little Mermaid, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, Little Mermaid
Yeah,
was
Little
the one
Mermaid
that
was
reestablished it as the
the Disney
No.
Renaissance. So to
Yeah.
speak.
yeah as the juggernaut that it is today, which is kind of scary when you think about it, because Monopoly, everything. But again, rants for another time.
Yeah.
The
But-
documentary, isn't that?
Waking
sorry.
Sleeping Beauty.
Thank you, Cody. Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to mention
Yeah.
that if anybody was interested in that dead period of Disney.
Oh, and points for if you're a Tim Burton fan to see him, because he used to work at Disney Animation and he looks like a little weird emo kid that doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
That's
well,
his
yeah,
old
he
high
did.
school yearbook photo, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
He did animate that sequence where that's basically the zombies rising from the Black Cauldron.
Yes.
Such an underrated movie, though, in my
It-
opinion.
It is.
Oh,
It,
I love the Black Cauldron. I remember seeing that as a kid and it scared the crap out of me. But I mean, I think it's a great like fantasy. I think they were brave for doing what they did with it because
For
it
sure.
was
Yeah.
going to be a lot darker.
yeah, Disney's first PG movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget that.
But segueing back to Conan and talking about the string of fantasy films, because I think Excalibur came out the year before, and
Oh
but
yes.
But we do get like there was a lot of fantasy films in the 80s. And of course, I know there was the huge satanic panic, but do you think the popularity of D&D is what kind of made Hollywood be like, well, let's try these fantasy movies?
I would not put it past them,
To wait till
Like-
it's popular somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
But let's see let's try some of these and yeah, it wasn't just 1982, but 1982 was a big year for that. But yeah, you're right. There were several fantasy epics that came out during the 80s. Krull Krull comes to mind.
I love
And then-
Kroll, too.
And then there's, let's see. Oh God, that's like the first. I thought of another one, but another that comes to mind is Labyrinth. I mean, that's
Yep.
not that's more magical realism, since it starts out in a more grounded world. But yeah, I mean, that is definitely a more definitely Terry Gilliam inspired.
Which he had a few of those in the 80s himself.
Yeah, and I often call Labyrinth the movie that kicked off puberty in a lot of kids. And it's probably kicking off puberty to kids to this day.
Is it for David Bowie or for Jennifer Connelly?
Yes.
Bowie's
Yes.
massive codpiece.
It
That
might
just
as well.
always bothered me in a children's show. But
There is that was not an accident either. I watched several different behind the scenes movies, and yes, that the Bowie is not an accident.
well, I'm sure it's hard.
It's
hard
basic.
to take something down that you can't you have no control over.
Yeah,
Like Bowie, listen, man, we're having an issue. Like the lens on the camera is just not big enough, man. We're gonna have to
Labyrinth is pretty much what I call Sexual Awakening the movie.
the musical, Sexual Awakening, the musical.
No, there's already a musical about that. It's Spring Awakening. That's a
Oh no, yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
but again, there are a lot of fantasy series and shows during the 80s during that time. Heck, let's not forget the D&D cartoon.
Hey, we watched that to this day. I watched that with my kids. We love
D&D cartoon. Actually, they also made a Conan cartoon.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. This
Remember
movie
that.
was that popular. I mean, I knew it did well
Yeah,
because they made a sequel and a spinoff.
Well, the Conan cartoon was late 80s.
Yeah,
early
late
90s.
80s, early 90s. It was called Conan the Adventurer.
Yeah,
Huh.
I remember
And
that.
I don't know how much of Robert Howard's stuff they kept in that cartoon. I mean, they obviously couldn't make it too gory, or and it could be too sexual.
Which this movie is both.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The original
Let me-
definitely earns its R rating.
Let me. I wanted to bring that up. Now,
I thought the R rating was for the fact that everybody was like a blood-filled water balloon anytime they brushed up against something that was supposed to be sharp.
the love scenes in this are really tame.
Yeah, the orgy scene looks like everybody just is on catnip. They're just kind of like rolling around and making like maybe they're dying, maybe
Yeah.
it's an orgy. It's not. You're not really sure what's about to happen.
Like, there's nothing. It's not Game of Thrones.
Oh god.
No,
No,
but there are
definitely
two.
Thank goodness.
There are two. They don't really show a lot, but you see Arnold flexing his muscles in his two love scenes he has in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I said, they're compared to things that you see in movies today. It is still very tame. Like I personally, I think the R rating. I mean, yeah, the movies probably helped, but I think it was more for the gore. Like the lovemaking scenes, you see.
Yeah.
I think
and,
you've seen worse things than that in '82. Even.
and also, yeah, let's not forget Arnold was a horny bastard.
Yeah.
He was very much a social butterfly.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, have you seen his videos him talking about pumping iron?
Well, yeah, because doesn't he say some very sexual things about working out?
Very much sexual. It's
It's like pumping is. No, I won't repeat it. But
What?
Yeah.
So I
Watch
want to.
Pumping Iron,
Yeah.
guys.
So I want to share a story that I found out because there's a documentary about John Milius who directed this film,
Mhm.
and
I didn't
at
see
the
that.
time, that's what Arnold's known for, right? Is being a bodybuilder. And that documentary, that's probably like the biggest thing.
Right.
And watching the movie, you're like, well, of course Arnold is Conan. Who else would have been Conan at this time in the world? Like, he was born to play this role.
Right.
The studio did not want to hire Arnold Schwarzenegger. In fact, John Milius had a meeting with an executive or one of the producers, and he's like, you can't hire this guy. He can barely talk. Does he even speak English? And he's like, fine. Okay. I have the perfect actor in mind. He's got the gravitas, the chops. He can really bring some dramatic and make this movie really good. And they're like, who is it? And he's like, Dustin Hoffman. And he's like, and then the executive looked at him and said, fine, you can hire Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
No shade, Dustin Hoffman. No shade.
Yeah.
No. Yes. Dustin Hoffman,
Now-
you are the GOAT.
Now I'm just imagining Conan with Dustin Hoffman, and isn't that a fun little mind adventure we can all go on?
A Conan
No.
Tootsie March.
Though I will say that, I mean, you do mention the fact that it's like you can't hire Arnold Schwarzenegger because he doesn't talk. You realize that he really doesn't say a line of dialogue until probably half an hour into the movie at least.
Yeah, it's after like the prologue, the whole backstory, and then the montage of him working out, using that wheel thing, and then him becoming like.
The Wheel of Pain is actually a part of the strongman competition now. They have a replica of that, and it's an event at the Arnold Strongman Classic. Which is awesome. Like, these dudes have to go and push. They have to see how many times around they can push the Wheel of Pain.
How far around they can push it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a strong man or a person at all, but I really want to push that thing around.
You are a person, Lindsay.
Yes, Lindsay, you are very much a person.
Not a strong person, though. I know where my strengths and weaknesses are, and physical education wasn't one of them in school. But I'd like to give it a go. If they have like a Super Weenie Hut Junior version of the Wheel of Pain, I would love to try it out. That'd be really fun.
Okay, there is a webcomic that I used to frequent. It's called Something Positive. Shout out to Randy Milholland. But there is a comic in there that talks about how when Arnold pushes the Wheel of Pain, he should not be having abs. In fact, when he's being fed gruel, he should be having a gut, but his deltoids and his back would be pretty much ripped, but not as it would just be like muscular arms and a muscular back, but he'd have a dad bod.
So he'd be like one of those bodybuilder guys that just work out but eat whatever they want.
More or less.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about? You've seen those guys at the gym. They're like trainers, but they're fatter than you. And you're like, how are you a trainer? But they're like, No,
they can actually lift.
Yeah.
I flip tractor tires on the weekends for funsies. That's why I'm a trainer.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Nick, because then there's the whole montage where I guess he becomes like a slave or like some sort of gladiator type.
He's a gladiator, yeah.
And like, I don't think he speaks until they're like, Conan, what is best in life?
Yes, that's where we get that epic, iconic line. Crush your
enemies. What though? It works. That's the genius of this movie. Is there are long periods without dialogue that's just visual, and the soundtrack makes it work.
Well,
you don't have to have the dialogue, and it's just that's one of the things that I like about the movie is it's more visual than it is dialogue.
Well,
Heavy.
also, I think this is one of those moments where it's necessity is the mother of invention here, because a lot of Arnold's earlier movies, he rarely spoke because people thought, oh, they could hear him past the accent. Because, 2 years later, when he got cast in the Terminator, he only spoke, 90 words of dialogue? Throughout that
It's
whole
not a
movie.
lot, but I mean,
Yeah.
he was
But I mean,
hired
it
for
worked
physical
because
presence.
yeah, it worked because of the physical presence and everything, and Arnold was the villain in that movie. But I think it was also one of those things in Conan where let's not have him talk for the first several first half hour or so of this 2-hour movie.
Right.
And now
Yeah.
you could go up to any stranger on the street and be like, "Let me hear your Arnold impression."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And almost everyone's going to be, get to the chopper.
Yeah.
That's the most famous.
So,
Or it's not a tumor.
Yeah.
It's not a tumor.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Funny.
Put the cookie down.
Funny little side story. Back in my delinquent days when I had dial-up internet, I discovered sound bites. There was a whole page dedicated to sound bite. They had Joe Pesci, they had Arnold, they had all these celebrities. They had taken sound bites and clips from these movies, cleaned them up, and you could use them to prank call with. So I could go to this website, go to their soundboard. Through the website, I could dial up whoever, and I used to call up my friends and use these sound clips. But there's one, and I swear I'm going to find it because it's hilarious, where this dude calls a computer store, and the guy's like, "Hello, so-and-so computers," and he's like, "Yes, I'm looking for I forgot how he puts it, the processor or whatever." It's like clips from Terminator 2, and the guy is just like, yeah, I don't think we have that. And he just leads them on for so long before the guy's like, wait a minute, who is this? But great stuff. Hilarious. I know it's the immature part of me still finds that just good stuff. But anyway,
I was thinking you could download some of those sound clips, because I can imagine a lot of kids getting a lot of use out of that. I'm wondering if that website is still up to date.
I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a long time until we started talking about impressions, and I was like, oh yeah, because the Joe Pesci, holy crap, they took stuff from like Goodfellas and
Oh, that could be a frightening phone call.
Casino, and man, there was this one dude. He called the other guy. It must have been in the Bronx somewhere because he called him, and the guy's like, "Hello," and you hear Joe Pesci like, were you the MFer that was looking for me?" And the guy's like, "What? You heard me. Are you the MFer that was looking for me?" And he's just using these really harsh sound clips, and the guy's getting really pissed off. And he like starts talking. Joe Pesci starts talking about his wife, and it got pretty heated. And the guy, I guess the guy just did not understand that it was Joe Pesci. But I was like, holy crap, they really take these far sometimes. But anyway.
But speaking of impressions, there are moments in this movie where all we hear is Arnold making noises, like when he is freed and like he gets in that cave, and all we hear is ah.
Yeah.
When he falls down those,
Yeah.
he like falls down the little tumbly cliff rocks or something. I'm like, and now you know what would happen if Arnold Schwarzenegger fell down the stairs. It would sound exactly like that.
And when he got bit.
Hey, but you know what? Wally was a powerful character in his movie, and he didn't talk a lot either. So
There you go.
he pulls it off.
So, Chris, you mentioned earlier this week it kind of strays from the source material based on those pulpy novels from Robert E. Howard. Did you guys know he's
Yes,
from
also,
Texas?
yes, I was about
Okay.
to say another Texas guy. He was also very troubled.
Mhm.
The way he wrote Conan was in one night, and he said that he felt Conan's presence standing over him.
Oh dear.
He could feel him standing behind him the whole time, and he just manically wrote out this whole Hyperborean universe, this world that basically turned into like a demented Tolkien-esque type world. I mean, they didn't really have like dwarves and elves and stuff, but I mean, there were dark wizards and monsters and
I definitely feel the Texas influence in this setting. Like this dude clearly has been in like some deserty part of Texas.
Yeah.
Just
well, he ended up killing himself,
Mhm.
and but he was himself a very robust, like buff dude. Like he played sports. He was very, I guess muscular. I mean, I'm not going to say Arnold, but I mean he himself was a big guy, and that's probably what contributed to Conan. But in the books, he's black haired. He's a little shorter in stature. I always thought kind of Conan. I mean, Wolverine, but really muscular and longer black hair.
So he's kind of more of a Wolverine type of body build in the comics.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, didn't Marvel Comics do a Conan comic?
Yes, they had a really long run. They actually did the movie adaptation of the comic, of the book, in book form. I mean, it's actually going today. They just had it's called Savage Avengers event, and he was a part of it, which I thought was awesome. So they brought him in and made him an Avenger in a way, which is pretty badass.
Yeah, because there were Conan comics. There was a Conan cartoon. They say I'm just kind of surprised they didn't do more movies like they did with Red Sonja. I guess they didn't want to shell out the budget for any special effects or anything.
Well,
if you'll notice by the second movie, it's tamed down a whole lot. It looked like the budget. Like it had budget, there are some spectacular sets and stuff, but it doesn't seem as like robust and grand as the first movie.
Yeah, and they've even tried remaking it a couple of times, and those kind of fell through the cracks.
Yeah, the Jason Momoa one did not do well financially or critically, and this is right after Game of Thrones had come out, so I guess that's why he got cast.
I didn't even remember that there was a remake.
I like it.
The remake was R-rated, so it wasn't.
And it's actually a little closer to the source material from what I've heard. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Matter of fact, I don't think I've seen it since
I would.
So
I only saw it once in the theaters, and I thought it was okay. But you know how that nostalgia glasses or things sometimes when you watched when you're younger, you have like, I don't know, sometimes you know how it is sometimes.
It's a brain filter that just totally
You're like, well, this is not how it was done before.
Yeah.
Right.
So I probably need to go back and give it another shot.
I think Momoa embodied the look of Conan a little more than what Arnold did, but it's just it's hard. When I think Conan, I think Arnold. Arnold is Conan to me.
So honestly, I don't think Jason Momoa is that much of a screen presence on it, to be honest. I saw him in Aquaman, and everyone else was interesting, but Jason Momoa. It was one of those. It was one of those situations. Like, Willem Dafoe, of course.
Well, Willem Dafoe's always interesting.
Yes,
that man is a treasure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as on the Momoa fan train. Oh, that's weird. Fan train as other people are, and I I remember people like, Aquaman's insane. They got octopuses playing drums. I'm like, but Marvel already made a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Like,
Yeah,
Dude, Aquaman is nuts by definition. Everyone
mhm,
just the the problem is people think of Aquaman, they automatically think of him as back in Super Friends and
mhm.
some crap.
Yeah.
right.
Jason
Meanwhile,
Momoa has good like romance novel cover presence.
Yeah, Fabio esque.
Kind of like if you're doing interesting things and he's there, I guess it's slightly better. I don't know.
Okay, he's kind of like Dwayne Rock Johnson. He may be photogenic and he's fun in
I don't
action
know.
movies,
Dwayne
but
the Rock Johnson's pretty delightful in that
I'm not saying he's
that
not.
bodybuilder type movie.
No. I'm not saying he's not delightful. I mean, when it comes to bringing the acting chops,
Yeah. Well,
like
yeah,
they can do it, and they can do it, and they can deliver it. But it's not gonna believe. It's not gonna. I have yet to see a Stallone First Blood performance out of either of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
for being
does.
muscly guys, you know.
I don't think we have those type of actors anymore. Like that was of an era. I don't think we're gonna get a Stallone and Schwarzenegger again. Just like we're not gonna get a John Wayne or Clint Eastwood again. Like
Right.
it's
Well, I meant Stallone. He was a muscle guy. I mean, he was a big, muscly action star boxer at the time, but he was able to deliver those lines in First Blood. He was able to deliver those and make it what it was.
Honestly,
But-
I think with a lot of the a lot of Stallone stuff, especially like his early stuff, that's when he started. That's when he had to prove himself because
Right,
let's-
like
I mean,
Nighthawks.
Rocky-
Nighthawks is an underrated
Yeah.
movie of his, where he acts in that. You know, he's trying to pass as a serious actor
Yeah,
and not just a roided out, you know, explosions expert.
yeah. I mean, look at the original Rocky. I mean, there's a reason that movie won Best Picture, and it's like I said when I first started talking with y'all. The original First Blood is a legitimately good movie. It is a thoughtful. It is a thoughtful, not experimentation. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
what's the
statement. It's a thoughtful statement of how Vietnam vets are tend to be treated nowadays, but it's the sequels that come off as the basically like I said, Vietnam revenge porn, and the same thing with the Rocky sequels. They say that's when it started gaining its reputation for beefy guys just beating the snot out of each other.
Right.
But the originals movies are what made the series such revered classics in the first place. So, I mean, they were young actors and they had to prove themselves. And, going back to Conan, Arnold, he's done several movies before. I mean, there's that one Hercules in New York where they,
don't they dub his voice?
They dubbed his voice over.
I've seen the undubbed version.
Yeah.
And
you
guys better?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's better, but
It's different.
It is what it is.
What is it, Tina? oh God, it's my cat, y'all. She's wanting some attention.
Oh, she has opinions on movies she would like to share.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I think with some of these modern guys, one, it's the scripts they're getting. But like you mentioned, The Rock or Dwayne Johnson, who has charisma, but there's one thing he won't do that we were talking about that Arnold will do, is have a sense of humor about himself. And I'm not sure if this guy's going to become an action star. I think they tried to make him an action star, but the one person who doesn't mind making fun of himself is John Cena.
Okay, John Cena. That is, like, The Rock does have some comedy chops. I mean, he was decent in Get Smart, but that's acting opposite Steve Carell. And we all know how funny Steve Carell can be. And there were the the two Jumanji movies that he was in. Yeah, he does have some acting chops, but I do think you're right. He does need to take himself a little bit more lightly, and John Cena was able to do that. Like, I've seen him in Bumblebee, and the fact that he's playing this military guy. He says, "We can't team up with these guys. They call themselves Decepticons, for God's sake."
Yeah, he knows like what kind of movies he's in. Like even
Yeah,
with him playing Peacemaker and stuff, he knows like what he's doing.
yeah.
Right.
And like Vin Diesel, that man has no sense of humor really, other than I guess when he's playing Groot.
Yeah, I think with a lot of, well, it's not just the actors. There are a lot of the movies that really take themselves too seriously. That was honestly my biggest gripe about Batman v Superman. The more it wanted me to take it seriously, the less I could take it seriously.
I don't think I laughed more in a movie theater when they just kept screaming Martha at
Oh
each other.
God!
oh,
Oh, by look, here's Tina.
Oh.
It's like,
Kit Kat.
it's like she has this look that this affronts my dignity.
I think that's
Getting
a
back,
default setting face.
getting back to this movie, what do we think about like the special effects with the snake transformation?
I'm not. Well, this is me watching it as a young adult. I thought it was cheesy, but I'm not sure um, how it would have come off in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
And
Considering special effects, I thought it was decent. Just again, it was that play on edit and cuts. He would go away. It would focus. You would see James Earl Jones's face, and then it would cut to something, and you go back, and it kept doing that. So you would slowly see the trend. It started with his eyes, and then it moved to, his face started morphing, and his hands protruding. But it
Yeah.
was different. It was edited in just different quick cuts, and I think it was effective. And
yeah, it kind of goes back to those, I guess, Ray Harryhausen movies,
Mhm.
or
yeah,
basically those kind of old school. Because again, back, high fantasy, high adventure, those movies are not new. I mean, there's Jason and the Argonauts. I want to see, and hell, the original Clash of the Titans came out a year prior to this.
Mm-hmm. I think they're fine. I think it's interesting though that we're going to be talking about movies this summer that have far way better effects. They probably have better budgets.
Oh
and,
yes,
and
oh
they
yes.
stand up 40 years later.
God, I still can't believe a lot of these movies that
one
I
of those
loved
is
are 40 years
Poltergeist,
old
which
now.
actually was released on this date.
Oh yeah, there you go. It's 40 today.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do we
Same with
think?
Wrath of Khan.
Oh, they were released in the same weekend?
Yes.
Wow. Dang.
Well, different.
Well,
Yeah.
also keep in mind, back then, movies had a lot more time in the theater than they do now.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those movies had plenty of time to make their money back. I mean, back then,
Right.
movie studios and theaters, they played the long game.
Instead of what did you make on
I'll tell you
opening
what.
weekend?
Yeah.
If I had thought about it, I would have totally have tried to get together a watch party for Wrath of Khan, the extended version of Wrath of Khan.
Well, we could probably still do that. Um, we're going to be talking about these movies all summer. So,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
all right. Speaking of which, I got about 2 minutes. I need to step out because we're going to go house hunting.
All right.
Well, good
Nice.
luck. I know the
Yes.
market out there is crazy, so I hope you
It's
find.
getting better, but it's not getting better fast enough. So,
Uh-huh.
yes. Wish me luck. All the thoughts, all the prayers, and everything.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Next weekend we're doing Road Warrior, Nick.
Oh, ooh.
Yes.
It's like until Tom Hardy came along, was it the best Mad Max movie, or were you more fond of Beyond Thunderdome?
Road Warrior was my favorite. I've always had a soft spot for Beyond Thunderdome. I know there's a reputation where people are like, "Well, that's the bad one." I'm like, "It's kind of fun."
I like that. Used to be one of my. That used to be one of my favorite lines. Is "Welcome to Thunderdome."
All right. Well, I'll see if I could. If you could find me a copy, I'll definitely watch it before next week.
Well, if you know someone with a HBO Max subscription, it's on
Oh,
there.
I do have actually one funny story. My friend gave me her HBO Max logins. So HBO Max, Disney Plus, Hulu.
I'm censoring that so you don't get in trouble.
Oh,
No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I think there are way too many co-op
Oh yeah.
Streaming accounts for any of those threats from Netflix to be credible. So.
Right. I heard.
Is that what Netflix is like? Well, people keep sharing accounts. Well, quit having 90 streaming services.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not enough just for them to make a profit anymore. They want to make all the money. But again, rant for a different time. I will leave you. I will leave you to your discussion. But thank you so very much for including me.
Well, thanks for the idea. This was kind of your idea.
Yeah.
I kind of just looked at the movies that came out this summer, and I was like, well, these are probably the ones we should talk about.
All right. Yes, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing more of this. All right. See y'all later.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Good
Thanks.
luck, Nick.
Have a good. Well, Cody, what did you like? You told me this was a very metal movie.
Yeah.
What are your issues with it? Like, do you have any negative issues with it?
I mean, not really. I mean, there's not a lot of like quality acting in this. I would say, James Earl Jones is pretty good because he's James Earl Jones. He does the role that he's supposed to do. He's kind of charming. He looks kind of weird with the long hair. Like some of these guys don't look like they really look good with long hair, but he's having
He pulled it
fun.
off.
I love Mako as the wizard. He's fun, and he's also the narrator, but he just had a cool voice. No, I don't really have much. I don't really.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're okay. I don't have really negative thoughts on this movie. I mean, probably how it other than the main female character, they don't really give the females much to do other than be sex objects in this movie or means for revenge.
Very pretty props. Yeah.
Right. I was going to say that is one thing. Again, going back to the comparison of Game of Thrones, like even with the montage at the beginning, like, no, it's not cool to just go into a dude cage, but it showed him, like, I guess it showed some sort of empathy, like him empathetic, like he covered her up and he was like, well, I'm not gonna beat you. And again,
we're not gonna
comparison. Yeah, but again,
still
another
gross,
comparison to, it's still gross, but it didn't Game of Thrones it up. There was no violent rape or anything like that. So, and there very well could have been something like that, or something suggestive. but they chose to go another route. So you got to give them that. Like, it could have been a lot more. It could have been worse.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, this is still icky and gross, but he's being surprisingly tender during this
Right.
whole
Like,
watch rape scene.
yeah, like it's not cool, but again, that's one thing that always stood out. Like, okay,
I'm
like
not familiar enough with the source material to know if that's a sop of the situation or.
Yeah, is that
Oh,
typical of Conan to be not a complete barbarian?
well, yeah, he's educated and stuff in the books, and they touch on that.
I do know that. I do know that he's a much bigger talker in the books. He's much more philosophical and thoughtful.
Yeah, he's very intelligent. He was just a brute and very, very violent. You know, because he did go through. He was a gladiator, and you know.
So do you know if the sequel did not do well? I know it's not considered good or received well, but like they did just. Is that why they quit?
Yeah, it was a contractual thing, because when this movie came out, Arnold was already getting offers from bigger movies. Matter of fact, I want to say there's a picture of him on set in his Terminator boots. I may be confusing that with another movie of his.
They had to delay the Terminator filming because of Conan the Destroyer, and that's why Cameron was off writing the Alien script. Yeah. Because he needed work while he was waiting on Arnold.
Right. But there's like a picture of him with like a.
Maybe Conan the Destroyer needed to be made for different reasons.
Right.
For the progression of other things.
I think it was probably one of those studio things where, I don't know, like they had to do it, but they didn't put the effort into it that they did in the first movie.
Well, Mullis went off to make his blank check project that practically blacklisted him in Hollywood, even though it has a cult following, and they've even remade the movie now.
Which one was that?
Red Dawn.
Ah, okay, yeah. His I call. Oh no, I'll be nice. It's a behind the pine curtains wet dream movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way. Don't get me wrong. It's a fun. I like it for what it is. It's a fun movie. It's a cheesy, fun movie. I do watch it every couple of years, but it is very much a right wet dream.
Yeah, I don't think he's one of those MAGA guys, but he's very extreme right wing.
Yeah.
No, he claims he's anarchist, is what he says, and he says anyone that's really right wing wants no government. So he may be his own flavor crazy.
Right.
But this movie rules. It kicks butt, and Arnold Schwarzenegger became a movie star.
Yeah. He did what he set out to do, become a movie star, successful businessman, making money, and a U.S. citizen. And he got it. He's
an activist grandpa with a pony and a donkey who have their own.
Right. I don't always agree with him, and his politics were a little shoddy back in the day, but I really think he means well. He does a lot of good stuff.
He does do a lot of good stuff with his money, even though he had a secret baby with the nanny.
Right. He's not perfect, but compared to other Hollywood types, I think he's
to other Hollywood types in his, not only in Hollywood, but of his little circle and even his politics. He's not as bad.
Right. His politics are middle of the road. Like there are a lot of left-leaning ideals that he has, and there are a few he has more left-leaning ideas than he does right-wing ideas. But
Considering his upbringing is impressive personal growth.
Right.
Yeah.
He does have some right-wing views that I don't agree with, but not everybody's going to agree. But he doesn't push them. That's the thing. He doesn't push them in your face. And when he does talk about stuff like, hey, don't be a Nazi. I was raised by my dad was an ex-Nazi. He beat me. Don't be that guy. You know, don't be an asshole. But anyway.
Yeah. I would actually like for him to come back and play this character instead of him doing 900 Terminator movies.
Oh, dude, he could still do King Conan and pull it off.
Oh, that would be great.
And have him, I'd see him die at the end, just to finish out, like. And what they can do nowadays, they could just make it so epic. Like, it'd be awesome. They could even go back and show flashbacks and have a stand-in with everything they can do with the face swap and the voice and everything. Like, kind of have flashbacks about what happened in between, the first two movies of him being an old man, old king, and then have him finish it out and maybe die fighting at the end or something. I don't know. I just think it would be epic.
Yeah, I just think if there's one franchise or character he's played that they could bring back, this would be a fitting one and would make more sense, and they could use his age for it and it would work.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to talk about this movie?
No, I just think it's metal. It's heavy metal. Matter of fact, you could replace the soundtrack with like any Ronnie James Dio or Black Sabbath, and you could totally just make it still work.
I'm sure there's one of those, like, you know how you sync up Wizard of Oz to.
Oh yeah, if I had
I'm sure
Dark Side of the
several
Moon.
albums
if I had the editing software, I'd totally do it.
You could Dark Side of the Moon Conan with a number of.
I already have a few
musical
songs.
buttons.
Yeah, I already have a few songs in mind that I just think would be just heavy metal. Just it'd be awesome. But anyway,
Yeah.
What do you think, babe?
I just want to say that I like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies because Arnold Schwarzenegger reminds me of my Dutch grandpa. Like, he's like a very fitness, business, gotta be doing something kind of person. And they have similar accents, and I just enjoy all Arnold movies. I can't think of any that I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Can't rewatch that.
Even his cheesy ones like Commando, they're fun and they're worth watching just to.
Who's the artist that does all the Conan art? That's so beautiful. I do appreciate that piece of Christopher. You know the artist's name. We've talked about
Drew Struzan?
No, not
Who paints
Did
no
Fran
the Conan
what?
art.
You're talking Frank Frazetta.
Frank Frazetta. Thank
Yeah,
you. I knew Frank,
genius.
but I could not remember that.
He
last
does
name.
Death Dealer
Yeah.
for the famous album cover for Molly Hatchet.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I
That's-
couldn't think of his name because didn't he do something with Fire and Ice, the Ralph Bashki movie too?
Yes, yeah, he was heavily involved in that. Like his stuff is gorgeous, and again, when I think Conan, that's another vision I
feel like his art, the female featuring people of his art seem more like a part of the story than the actresses got to be in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I appreciate about the art,
Yeah.
as attached to Conan.
Yeah, that's a good call, Frank. But yeah, man, I love it. We go back and I go back and watch it every once in a while just to watch it. I mean, it's a good movie. I like it. Again, it's one of those. It made it work without having to have just tons of dialogue. The soundtrack helps carry it. It's epic. It just. The battle scenes and the chorus and the score, especially the opening during the Riddle of Steel opening and the whole build up, and like when Thulsa beheads his mother, and it's very that just all of that is just gorgeous. Like it's great stuff. So, and yeah, lots of awesome imagery. Speaking of Frank Frazetta, there's where when the princess is chained up on the monolith towards the end, where they're fighting. That's very visual of a Frank Frazetta painting. So they did, they kind of incorporated some visual stuff there, I guess. Maybe borrowed it. Yeah, I think it's fun. I love it.
Yep. As a commenter said, awesome movie. I agree. This movie rules. What composer takes over for? Ooh, I don't know.
Which one?
They're asking I guess if they ever do another Conan, who should compose the soundtrack for Conan?
Oh, I tell you what, give me.
Well,
Yeah,
I can't think of their names, but I mean, this
I'll
one's on
comment.
the nose. But
Yeah, I'll reply to that in comments. Let me think about it, and I'll get back to you on that. But I do have a few in mind. I think we could just bring that epic, that just badass, epic sound. My bad, guys. I'm visually. Ooh, I'm here.
I don't know who did the Game of Thrones. That one's on the nose, but the guy who does the Mandalorian and he scored Tenet, he could probably do it too.
Ooh, Bear McCreary.
Yeah,
Bear McCreary's a good one. He did, because he did the Battlestar reboot soundtrack, which is every soundtrack piece to that, from the miniseries through the end of season 4, is just beautiful. Like if you've ever wanted to listen to an amazing soundtrack to any show, please hit up the Battlestar Galactica reboot. Just look up what he did with All Along the Watchtower.
Ooh.
Battlestar Galactica, because they wove that into the show. So I'm not going to spoil it. They weave it into the show, and it's actually.
Oh yeah, Zero Dark 30.
Yeah. So anyway, I highly recommend it. I'll get back to you on soundtrack choices, because that is a good one.
This is our commenter, our one viewer right now was asking.
Our ones of viewers. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Godzilla. Yeah, those are good scores.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie rules. Crank it up to 11. Crush your enemies and dine on their skulls while you watch. No,
Yeah.
don't do that. Don't do that. I'm
Hear
not
them-
endorsing. I'm not endorsing.
Drive them before you and enjoy the limitations of the women.
Or men.
Or men. Or people. Yeah. People wailing and crying in unison. What
is better?
What is more uplifting and empowering than that?
But yeah, we will be continuing the summer of 1982, where we all reflect and feel old about ourselves, even though none of us were born yet in 1982. But yeah.
Yeah, we're just a year later, guys. But you know what's coming up for us.
Hey, but you know what? Time isn't real, so we don't have to feel old.
Right.
But next week we are talking The Road Warrior, the sequel to Mad Max, but here in America we didn't really get Mad Max. It was a cult thing in America, so it was called The Road Warrior instead of Mad Max 2, which is where it's called everywhere else. But another movie star born for better or worse.
Right.
But the movie's cool.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, yeah, and that's it. That's all we're doing next weekend. Do we have anything else?
No, next weekend we're going with the Coen Brothers. We'll be talking "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Ooh, I love that movie. We will definitely try to be here for that. What time? What day and time is that one, Cody?
Well, let me see if I can pull up the conversation with that guest and see if we came up with the time yet.
Because
Wow.
I
Two
definitely, I would
people are
like.
watching me look at my phone
Yay,
to find
two
this
people.
message. No exciting conversations.
Right.
Ooh, look at me scroll. Here it is. Ah, I found
Yeah.
it. Okay. Lindsay, you may be at work at this time, but it looks like 5 o'clock Friday. So what is that? The 10th? Yeah, that's what I got. But I will confirm with the guests later this week to make sure they're still good for that day. But right now, it looks like it'll be Friday for Oh Brother, Saturday for the Road Warrior. Next week.
Cool. That sounds like that's a cool double feature. So
A strange
not
double feature, but
not
okay.
related, but just two good movies. Two good
Yeah,
movies.
two good movies.
For a back to back. But yeah, awesome. Thanks everybody for chiming in for our twos of listeners. And again, I'll let me think about the composer because I do have a couple in mind that I think could score a new Conan movie. I mean, it would have to be epic. It would have to sound epic to live up to. Now, and also, are we talking about a Conan reboot? Or are we talking about King Conan? Because you want the score to be kind of similar to the first two movies, which again, Basil Polidorus. But anyway, we'll get into that later.
Well, he's no longer with us, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll
I'll mention that.
score it.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. But thanks for listening, guys, and I guess we'll see you next week.
Yep. And you can watch along with us with the Summer of 82. We'll be doing this till the end of August.
Yes, because you know what next summer is? For our big 4-0, the summer of 1983. I think we should do the movies of 1983. That's jumping ahead. I know.
That's jumping ahead.
Jumping ahead, but just an idea. Keep that in mind.
All right,
guys. Later.
Everybody enjoy your weekend. Stay cool.
Mm.